and moving in if you are going to be local to San Diego, and just kind of getting your bearings as it relates to the campus and all of the virtual offerings that are available to you right now. So I'm glad that you're able to join us today. This will be a good opportunity for you to hear from our current students about their experiences, how they transition to grad school, learn from their experience, hopefully, and maybe get some advice that you can actually find useful through your own transition. So that's going to be the bulk of our time today, is for you to be able to ask questions. And so we encourage you to use the Q&A function for that. But right now, it's my pleasure to talk a little bit about the Idea Center. So we are part of the Jacobs School of Engineering, and we are here to support you during your time here with us at UCSD. So the Idea Center is an acronym, of course, like with everything else at UCSD. IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Excellence, and Achievement. And what that really means is that we build programs and services that are inclusive, that take into account the many different identities that you bring, the different backgrounds that you come from, and just making sure that we also are always thinking about what would help build community among engineering students in the school, and also what would help you do well academically while you are with us. So we work very closely with the departments in making sure that we think about not just how to support you within your departments, but also across the school, so that you can actually hopefully expand your network beyond your lab or beyond your courses in your department, and actually meet students across the 6 departments that we have in the School of Engineering. So the next slide, please. So this speaks a little bit about our mission, which I just mentioned before. We are here to provide a welcoming community for all of you, to make sure that you feel that you belong, and to make sure that you also have a good experience with us while you're here at the School of Engineering, not just academically, but hopefully also make friends through social interactions and develop your skills that will actually prepare you for your life after grad school. So next slides, I'm going to talk about a couple of different offerings that we have. You probably heard of these already because I've been to a few of the orientation sessions as well. We do have grad talks that we offer throughout the year, throughout the quarter, and it's normally on Fridays at noon. Usually in person, this is the same time that we offer it Fridays at noon, because we usually have pizza available for students afterwards. But given that we are in remote work right now, and most of you are actually in remote study and maybe even remote research, we continue to offer these talks, but they will be through Zoom. So we will be sending out the schedule for fall shortly. So the reason we do that is we want you to take a look at all the topics that we offer for the year, for the quarter, sorry, so that you can take a look at what topics you really are interested in, or you think would be of benefit for you at that moment in time. So you can note it on your planner and make sure that you keep an eye out for it when we do send out the link for those talks. So the good thing with these talks being virtual is that we're able to expand on the number of students that we accommodate. We do have thousands of students in the School of Engineering, so usually we are taking RSVPs for these talks if they were in person, but because they're now virtual, we can accommodate a lot more students, which is a good thing, and we're able to record most of them. So if you're not able to attend because of conflict with schedules, with class and other activities, you can always go back to the recording once we make them available as well. So following on Facebook is the best way to keep an eye out for these events, because we usually would release them on a weekly basis to let you know what topics are coming up. So the next one is about JUMP. You probably have seen emails that we've sent out. We are looking for more mentors for JUMP. So JUMP is our mentorship program where we actually have graduate students mentoring undergraduate students. So we do have many graduate students. We have more undergraduate students. We are one of the biggest schools on the West Coast when it comes to engineering. And many of these students are looking for mentorship. So even if you didn't do your undergrad at UCSD, the purpose of this mentorship program is for you to be able to share your experiences when you were an undergrad student, hopefully have these students benefit from your experiences, learn from your experiences. You are all here, you're all successful students. So hopefully you can also share some tidbits with them that will help them be successful. So each graduate students, we usually put together in a group with about 3 or 4 undergraduate students. It's quite manageable. It is a year-long commitment, so you do have to mentor these students for the whole year. But there's a lot of ways that we actually try to connect all of the students who participate in the program, not just with your small group. And so we hope that you would consider being part of the bigger community within the school, not just with your graduate community, but with all of the engineering students. And if you are, keen on being a mentor, or if this is something that you can fit into your schedule for this year, we would really love to have you apply. And the next slide, I think, shows how you can connect with us. We have many more things that we do at the Idea Center, but I want to make sure that I give the bulk of the time to our panel. So please do visit our website. That's a good place to visit many of the programs and services that we offer. Even though we are not on campus this fall, you can connect with us through all the social media platforms that most students use. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram. All of our recordings are on our YouTube channel. And we do send out a newsletter every Monday as well. And that's a synthesis of many of the opportunities that are available to engineering students that we send once a week. So keep an eye out for that as well. So we do hope that we see you in many of the programs and events that we offer through the partnership that we have with the Jacobs Graduate Student Council as well. And I encourage you to get involved. I encourage you to actually expand your network beyond your department, just because there are so many opportunities for that. And also, I think it will really enrich your experience while you're a student with us. So thank you. And I hope that you all have a good fall quarter.
Thank you, Jenny, for that very nice introduction about the Idea Center. I hope everyone was able to learn something about what they have to offer. I actually strongly encourage everyone to check out the Idea Center, because they are here just to mainly help the engineering students. So there's a lot of valuable resources that you can take advantage of, and like most of them are pretty much free for you to access. So hi everyone, my name is JR. I'm the president of JGSC. The JGSC stands for the Jacobs Graduate Student Council, and we are actually the only organization on campus that encompasses all of the engineering students from across the different departments. Usually for graduate student organizations, different student orgs have specific to the department, but we are the only one that really brings together the engineering students from across different departments. So that kind of speaks a little bit more to our mission statement, our mission goal. And really our purpose is just to not only bring different engineering graduate students together in order to generate that collaborations between different departments, because for us, research as PhD student is very interdisciplinary, right? There should be a lot of collaboration involved. You're not so much focused on just one field. In addition to that, we really want to help engender like a sense of community for the graduate students, because as grad students, it's generally a very isolating environment where we're just, at least for PhD, where we're just stuck in lab all day doing lab work, and that's kind of the only thing we're focused on. So the JGSC is here to really help bring the students together and have to build that sense of community. And we mainly do this by hosting a variety of different events as resources in order to help all the different engineering graduate students. So to talk a little bit more about some of the events that we are planning to host, one of the ones that we would be very interested in is professional development. So professional development, it's pretty standard for a wide variety of different organizations. The point is to help you develop soft skills in order to help you essentially build your network, build your skill sets, and help you better prepare for your career. And in addition, it's also an opportunity to network with people who have graduated or industry members that we try to invite into the campus. Obviously, with everything being virtual, that networking aspect might not be as strong and as easy it would be, but still we are trying to look for these opportunities in order to bring people together virtually. In addition to that, one of the major things that JGSE does is the student awards. So if you go to the next slide, the student award is kind of a way to recognize excellence, excellence for the graduate students, exceptional graduate students. Any graduate students can actually apply to this graduate student award, and they'll go through like a nomination process, and then we'll interview you in order to select, like have a panel of judges select the winning graduate student. We do this every quarter, and usually the winning graduate students will receive a prize and also some sort of publicity recognition. In addition, another thing that we're trying to host as part of JGSE this year is to have a monthly publication highlight. So this is more like to advertise any papers that you think is any papers that it's very good to share with others, and also again bringing that interdisciplinary collaborations between the different departments. And last but not least, we're definitely trying to host a lot of social events, although right now it'll have to be virtually. But again, it is to bring people together, have that sense of community, and for you to have an opportunity to meet new people. And again, for PhD students, take a break from that. So these are just some of the things we do. Obviously, we are always looking to expand and do more as an organization. So actually, for this year, we do have some open positions still available if you're interested in getting involved with JGSE. Some of which includes the VP of Marketing, a Community Service Chair, and also department reps from individual departments. So if you're interested in applying, please go to the link to submit an application. The application won't be due until the end of October, so there is still a lot of time. In addition, if you want to learn more about what JGSE do and like our presence on campus, please do come check us out in our first GBM, which will be on Friday at the same time as it is right now. Again, the Zoom link is linked over there, so if you are interested, please do come join us and learn a little bit more about us. And in addition, there are ways to connect with us either via email, or Instagram. Right now, we are in the process of building a website. Hopefully, we will be able to launch that soon, so you're able to check us out and also just connect with us as a whole. So with regards to that, I think we want to move on to the next session of this agenda, and that's mainly to the Q&A session, here to help the current students, right? So with regard to that, can we have an introduction from each individual panelist? Just general items about like your name, whether you're a master or PhD student, how long you've been at UCST, any research that you're part of, and what kind of previous experience that you have that is able to help the people that are here today. And in terms of panelists, can we, can anyone feel free to just speak up and introduce yourself.
I can go first.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm a second-year PhD student in CSE. I use they, them pronouns. I study machine learning and fairness. I'm the president of GradWIC, which is Graduate Women in Computing, which is open to all people who are in computing-related fields.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Manas Likith. I am a third-year PhD student at the Department of Nanoengineering. I am doing my research in Materials Virtual Lab under Professor Shuping Ong. I joined UCST in 2017 as a master's student. I finished my master's thesis last summer, and I eventually transitioned as a PhD student in the same department under the same professor. So if you guys have any questions on these lines, I will be more than happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Valentina. I'm a second year, pronouns she, her. I'm a second year graduate student in the structural engineering program. I haven't been involved in any research, and primarily my my schooling has been all coursework so far, so no research. So if any questions about classes, professors, I've also lived entirely off campus. So if any questions about that as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Moira and my pronouns are she, her. And so I'm a second year master's student in electrical and computer engineering in the track medical devices and systems. So my interests span across, like it's pretty broad. So it spans across integrated circuits design to machine learning for digital healthcare. And then over the summer, I interned with Qualcomm. So if you have any questions about like finding an internship, or if your goal is more industry focused, you can direct the questions to me. Also, I live in Mesa Nueva, the graduate housing. So if you have questions regarding housing or socializing, you can ask me a question about that too.
Okay, I'll go. Hi, everyone. My name is Ross Turner. I'm a second year PhD student in material science and engineering. I was a former UCSD undergrad in aerospace engineering and got my master's at UCLA in aerospace as well. Then I come with industry experience. I most recently worked at Lockheed Martin for the 3 years before I came to school here. So I've kind of done different schools, different places, and sorry for the sirens.
Hi everyone, my name is Ismael Munoz. I'm a fourth year PhD student in the Department of Bioengineering. I study bone biomechanics in relation to normal development and disease. So I've been at UCSD since my undergrad, I think it was 2011. I did a post-bac at Johns Hopkins in stem cell biology. Realized, what the heck am I doing? I should be doing engineering. So then I came back for graduate studies, and I applied to the PhD program in bioengineering, accepted the offer to be a master's student, and then transitioned. So if you're a master's student who is thinking about transitioning to the PhD program at some point, I might be able to help you with that.
Hello everyone, I'm Jing Tian, and it's kind of sad to realize maybe I'm the oldest among the panelists. I'm already starting my 5th year of PhD in the Bioinformatics and Systems Biology program. And I'm working in Dr. Joe Acker's lab at the beautiful Salk Institute, and we are using single-cell genomic technologies to study the spatial temporal dynamic of cell type in the brain and how they related to human diseases. So it seems like the bioinformatics community would be a relatively small part of this whole engineering community. And if you have any questions related to like the interdisciplinary field related to biology or some other, general graduate life questions, I will be able to help.
Yeah, hi, can you all hear me right now? I apologize for the background noise. Hi everyone, my name is Gopesh. I was born in India, raised in Kenya. After finishing high school, I went to Australia where I did my bachelor's and my master's in mechanical engineering. My master's was supposed to be my PhD. I had about 6 months left and I had a big fallout with my professor and decided to quit and take my master's. Started a new PhD in Australia. About 1.5 years into it, my professor moved to UC San Diego, and that brought me here in 2015. And now I'm in my 5th, 6th year of engineering, but no regrets. I've been very happy with my decisions. I've learned quite a lot on what not to do. So, feel free to reach out if you need help. At this point, I'll be wrapping up in the next 6 to 8 months. I founded a company as part of my PhD, and I mainly work on medical devices, medical advanced devices lab, MAD lab, and we're all mad there. But I've developed a few technologies for pulmonary drug delivery, rapid diagnostics, ophthalmology, and my flagship project is a steerable catheter for neurosurgery. So I mainly work on the interface of engineering and medicine. But I welcome any questions on anyone who's starting off. You're not sure of what you want to do, you're not sure of which lab you want to work in, or you've chosen a lab by default and or been allocated to one by default, and you're not sure if you want to proceed with that, go somewhere else, explore something different, or if you're having difficulties with your professors or communication with anyone else, I'm happy to help on any of those.
Okay, thank you everyone for the very nice introduction about yourself. So at this time, we'll open it up to the floor for Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can submit via the Q&A. If you have a question that are specific to an individual panelist, please make sure to put their name so we can address that question to that person. In the meantime, as we wait for the panel, as we wait for the audience to submit any questions that they might have, we'll start off with one very simple question for all the panelists. And that'll be, what were the most challenging aspects of going to grad school or transitioning from undergrad to the graduate level?
I can start. Yeah, so I think it's the pace at which UCSD's quarter system goes, because most of my undergrad was having quarterly system, so things kind of went slowly, and then it picked pace. But I think whoever is joining now, the incoming grad students, they will need some time to get used to the quarter system. It just comes and goes and comes and goes, and before you know, you have done with 1 year. So yeah, I think that aspect of it in the first quarter, it took me some time, and I felt that shock of the pace, and that was the most challenging part for me, at least. Yeah.
I'll say you're in many ways your own boss. Like you have someone above you, but you're really in charge of getting your own work done. So you set your own goals, you achieve or don't achieve your own goals. And so kind of coming from that core curriculum of your department and your bachelor's being very structured and being like, what classes actually help me get my work done better, or what gets me to my next step, or what skill do I need to go practice in order to take this measurement. Those are the things that you have to set and say, I'm going to do this by this time, work it and confirm, like bounce it off your PI or a friend. Just make sure you're not crazy and that things are realistic, and work your way through it. It's different, but it's totally worth it if you take control.
I could go next. Yeah, for me, just figuring out the rules of engagement. So basically, mirroring what Ross said and Gopesh said, like there is no structure. Well, there is structures, but for the most part, you have to figure things out by yourself. But not only within the research aspect, but like the interpersonal aspect, like like choosing your PI, the lab you're going to work in. Like what are the dynamics, but not only what are the dynamics within the lab, but as you're in the lab, you're going to grow. So as you're growing, the dynamics change. So hopefully, students pick a lab where you interview not only like the postdoc or the senior graduate, but even if there's undergrads, like interview them, because then if you're a graduate student, then likely you're going to have undergrads working under you. And to know that they're doing okay, well, that just ensures that like you will likely have a successful team of undergrads working under you. That and just, the rules of engagement for figuring out funding, like, is it the PI's responsibility? Is it yours? Is it both? You got to figure out your own timeline. And at the end of the day, the PhD, I believe it favors like independent thinking. And with that, you have to take the bull by the horns, and actually like be a leader in situations where you're not used to. So yeah, you just have to be adaptable, and you just got to keep working. That's my advice for that. It's most challenging part. I'm actually still working on.
I think for me, a little bit was like work-life balance. So figuring out like no one's gonna tell you, like other people have said, like no one's gonna tell you exactly when you need to be working and when you can take a break and stuff like that. So setting your own boundaries for that and making sure you're also like doing things that keep you like mentally doing the best you can, both like emotionally, physically, spiritually, all that stuff. Making sure you're just able to do all of that sustainably because I mean, like, it's your whole life, so you gotta do things that will keep you going.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question here. You know, what are the top not to do is directed to me, and I think obviously this is subjective based on which lab you're working and what you're doing, but based on my life experience and one thing I would say that I made a mistake with, and I've lost maybe 3.5 years of life because of that, is if you end up in a situation where you're not enjoying your research, you're in a lab where you're very capable, you're persisting because PhD students are known to persist with things and being determined and solving problems, and you're constantly in this mental fight within yourself whether you should keep persisting and finishing your PhD or whether you should quit and do something else. And that's a question a lot of people face, and many of them will persist and they'll go on and suffer for another few years and they'll get that PhD. But one of my biggest points of realization was hypothetically putting myself in that situation and asking, is that what you want to do for the rest of your life? And is that something you'll be proud of when you finish your PhD and tell other people this is what I wanted to do? And I think that's a difficult question a lot of people would have, and they would hesitate a lot. I've had a few friends over the last few years as well. And, if anyone, God forbid, but if you end up in that situation, please do reach out to me. I'll be happy to help. But in a lot of those cases, be courageous and be brave and don't think too much about what others would think about it or how they'd look at it. It really is your life. And you should be able to focus on that. I'm also reading, one more question here, which is directed more on nanoengineering. Not in nanoengineering, but I can definitely chime in on this, is whether you should do a, a research or whether you should do a comprehensive, exam and all. This really depends on what you are foreseeing your career goal is. Do you foresee yourself as somebody who wants to do more research, or do you foresee yourself as just looking at this degree as a stepping stone and you just want to get into your industry, show that you have a master's degree on paper, and that's about it? So if you want research experience and you want to explore more of what PhD research would be like, then for sure you should try and do more research. But if you feel like you just want a piece of paper, go ahead, do the coursework and get your paper.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead, please.
Yeah, so just a few things about nano engineering specific, because I did my master's there. Like the other panelists said, it all depends on what's your career goal and where do you see yourself after 5 or 10 or 15 years. But coming to the actual process of transitioning itself, the most crucial part about it is securing a funding. And once you have convinced a PI that you are worth funding and he has a project in mind for you, then it's only a matter of filing a petition, which is taken care by your department. They file a petition to the graduate division, and then the PI has to send a letter of support, financial support. He has to show the financial support. And once that is done, that's it's all paperwork which the grad division and your department coordinator will take care of. But the most crucial part, like I said, is funding. And for that, you need to work with some professor, maybe for your master's thesis or maybe just for your research experience. And once you have done some good job, and depending on the funding levels in the lab and the number of people who are graduating versus number of people who are coming in, if you find yourself lucky, you will get the funding, and then you don't need to worry about anything else. Yeah.
Does anyone have anything else to add with regard to the challenging aspect of some transitioning to graduate school? If not, we can move on to like the next question, which is kind of like both of them we already spoke a little bit about, but more focused on like what is the process from transitioning to a master's to a PhD. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think this question is more focused on what is it like to transition from a master to PhD at the same university, rather than getting a master and then like taking some time off and then getting a PhD in a different university. So this will be more towards people who have went into UCSC with the intention of getting a master, but actually switch to a PhD program.
Yeah, I can address that question. So I'm in the Department of Bioengineering. I applied to the PhD program. It's very difficult to get in the PhD program. So I got into the master's program. I think, I feel like graduate school in general, first of all, broadly speaking, there's no paths. There's several paths, and you have to pick one that suits your needs and the needs of your situation. So one of the first things I did is, in order for the department to kind of understand, or my PI to understand that I do want to go to the PhD route, like I immediately applied for funding when I, like NIH funding when I accepted the master's position. Just so though, you know, like, yes, I could write a proposal and actually be awarded, you know, monies to do research. And in my department, master's and PhD students, we pretty much take the same courses. And everything's pretty much the same until it's time to take the qualifying exam, which is, I believe, at the end of our second year for master's and PhD students. So if you're already a PhD student, you take the qualifying exam and then you continue. For a master's student in our department, you take the qualifying exam and pass, you become a PhD student. So that's like the logistic, you know, part of the logistics part of it. But in order to ensure your transition, you have to find like a PI that's willing to work with you, or that, you know, you work in the lab as a master's student and you kind of show them that you're capable of doing research. And then also you try to secure funding, either, you know, from the PI if they have, you know, amazing funding sources, or you got to find your own, whether that be like NSF or other funding sources. Personally, I like was awarded a diversity supplement. So I'm finding money because I don't want to pay while in a master's program. So I initiated a collaboration between our lab and another lab, and then molded those research goals together, defined my own project that does that, and then that's how I kind of been like awarded the money, and then that helped me smoothly transition. And I don't think I had to do the GRE again. Thank God, because I scored terribly. But yeah, if you have any other questions related to that transition, feel free to ask.
I can also give my 2 cents on the transition process. At least for the nanoengineering department, the transition process is actually very easy if you have a PI that's willing to take you into the lab. And obviously, in order to find a PI, sometimes something you can leverage very easily is, like many people have already mentioned, funding. If you have your own funding, like almost all the time, the PI will be very willing to accept you into the lab because you're free labor for them. So in that sense, like getting a fellowship funding, especially at NSF, NDSCG, from the Department of Defense, or any of these fellowships that you can like that's portable. You can change it from PI to PI or university to university. It will be very helpful in that process. The only difference for now engineering in order to get a PhD versus a master is that at the end of your first year, you have to take the comp exam. I actually do not recommend you to do the thesis. I don't think you're even able to do the thesis if you're just transitioning from master's to PhD in the now engineering. For the comp exam, PhD has 70% or higher, whereas master, you only need to score 60% or higher in order to get that master degree.
I also want to add a little bit on that. Like, even though like I'm just a master's student with industry focus, but I have a friend who has done that. Like, so she started like accepting the master's offer, but she already had a goal to do a PhD program here at UC San Diego. So like for people who like and can get funding, or like if you wanna like start research in like a slightly different field than like what you have experiences in, like it might be like a little bit more difficult to directly like apply for an external funding. But what you can do is I would advise you to like start finding a lab to working as early as possible. So like this friend of mine, like she actually already started like doing some work or getting involved in the lab like and during the summer before her like master program start, which is the past summer like for many of the attendees. But maybe you like not everyone has to like start this early, but I know that like especially in like ECE like because a lot of people want to like transition from master to PhD. So sometimes finding a research opportunity or getting involved with a lab is pretty competitive. So I would definitely encourage you, if you have like this intention to continue or like transition to a PhD, like definitely start doing research like as early as possible. Like even though you're not sure, like it's there's no harm to start early in finding a lab and working for a PI. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to chime in, and I'll jump on to Samir's question. You know, great question you have there, and glad to know you're interested in entrepreneurship. At what point should you pause research and get into product development? Yeah, look, there's no easy or good answer to this, but one thing I can tell you, we're trying to commercialize 4 technologies right now. And one thing I can say is a common denominator for all of them is you'll never pause research. There'll always be something incremental, because I don't think you will end up in a situation where you have a complete ready to sell product in your PhD or research. And if you do, man, hats off, you know, that's amazing. But at what point should you start trying to translate it is, I would say, when somebody is ready to fund it. If your technology or device or whatever product you're trying to make is at a point where an investor is willing to say, hey, you know, here's $500,000 or here's $1 million or here's, you know, whatever amount of funding that I'm ready to put towards it so that it translates to the market. That is a good point. And how to assess whether, you know, you've reached that point is to kind of gauge based on your progress on the technology and start engaging with stakeholders and people outside and pitching to them, participate in competitions. There are heaps of them of all sorts of levels, early stage, mid stage, product ready, and see what people have to say. But if you have any more specific questions, you want to know more about entrepreneurship, you know, just feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to, you know, to help directly on that as well.
And just adding a little bit on what Rakesh said. And so, yeah, like, so there are also like many startup accelerators or like programs at UC San Diego that you can just like participate to like kind of validate your idea or figure out like the market side or the business side of your potential product. Like, for example, I think there's Blue Link Health, in which I also get involved a little bit. And there's also, I think Start R. Like I think this is a program initiated by the Rady School of Management. So there are a lot of similar programs that are going on that you can participate and go through the process to get more idea on like market evaluations and skills on the business side of things.
Okay. I think Naveed had a question on when should we start looking for PIs, and Ross has actually answered it in the chat. The one thing I would like, from my own personal experience, I would like to add is that don't panic, don't hurry. You don't need to find the PI in the very first week of the first quarter that you join. You already have enough things to get used to. You already need to get to know the classes, the professors, the curriculum, and a lot of other things. So you don't need to panic. And I know there is this sort of a peer pressure that if you are a group of 4 to 5 friends and most of them get into a lab, you feel kind of left out and you feel, oh, you're not doing anything in terms of research and you're just sitting home working through the problems for the courses. But I frankly don't think you can do a lot in the first quarter itself, because the subjects themselves are quite heavy. So in terms of research, you really don't get to do a lot. At best, you will get in acquaintance with the professors and the and the PhD students in the lab. Apart from that, you will not make any significant strides in the research itself. So take it easy. If you are able to get into the lab, well and good. If not, wait. Look at more professors, look at more labs. Try to set up meetings like Ross said in the chat. And whenever you feel, okay, this professor seems to be reasonable in terms of his expectations and the way he's talking about his projects and the project that he's offering for you to work in. Looking at all that, take a very thoughtful decision. Don't rush. It's better to land in a lab much later, a right lab much later, than ending up in some lab where you don't get much done because you just wanted to get into a lab. So take your time before joining any lab. It's okay if you don't join in the first quarter. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, to add to that, I think most departments have a kind of, you need a tentative PI by the end of your first year just for their paperwork, but it's not even a hard requirement. You can switch later too. It's normally just so that they have somebody and they default to the department chair and they'll just fill that in for you. But just set expectations. Like as you're having those conversations, if they're going well, just be like, here's what I expect from you and what do you expect from me, and have those, and you'll find out very quickly if you're going to be a good fit or if it's a lab that you could work in. And then once you're kind of at that stage, just try to get all of the paperwork done for safety training, all the trainings, all that kind of stuff. So as soon as things get back and going, you're ready to go and get in the lab.
Yeah, I wanted to share my experience. I think I mentioned before, I came in as a master's student, and before I set foot back on campus, I applied for and was awarded funding. Yeah, this was definitely out of panicking because I didn't get into the PhD program. I definitely panicked, and I essentially that summer tried to figure out like which lab I was going to be part of. Luckily, I did my undergraduate there, so I kind of knew the professors and their research goals. But then what I realized as time went on is although I knew the professor and the research, I did not know about the dynamics. And that definitely like largely affects your research. So one of the hardest questions you got to ask yourself is like who you are and what your interests are, which is difficult because like, sometimes during the PhD that's when you figure it out, but the earlier the better. Once you figure that out, you can manage yourself, and then you could pick and choose and manage your environment in order for you to become successful in achieving your goal. So yeah, I would personally recommend trying to attend lab meetings, because you could go interview the PI or you could interview postdoc or a graduate student, but they're going to give you like a story. They might cover some slides of what research they've done, yada, yada. But in a lab meeting, like that's where you see the dynamic between the PI and everyone else. And you also see how each individual in the lab, like how their brain essentially works, and then how the lab, like their collective brains, like, you know, basically interact with each other. And then if that matches who you think you are in that moment and who you want to become, and that's when I would join a lab. But yeah, it's up to you whether to be cautious or if you've already talked to a lab like in your year, you know, if in the past year or something, like it's totally up to you. But basically just do your homework.
All right, I'm going to answer the next question. Those are great points, by the way, that a lot of my colleagues are telling you. I think those are things I wish I knew. Like one point I would emphasize is take your time to select your lab. I wish I did that. I would have graduated 4 years ago if I did that. Can a master's student apply for out of varsity funding? Yes, absolutely. You definitely can. There are lots of opportunities out there that you can apply for, provided a lot of them you'll need support from your PI who'll have to write you like a reference letter or recommendation or something. Some they even need to nominate you. But yeah, you know, look out for them. To put things in perspective, I've probably applied for about 120 different grants and awards and maybe scored less than 10% of them. So there's lots of opportunities out there. Another question here I'm seeing somebody asked if they should do comprehensive or research for MAE, and you know, I think somebody else also asked this for nano engineering earlier. My answer to that is really, what do you want to do in your career? If you want your piece of paper as a master's degree certificate, just do coursework and get done with it. But if you feel like you want exposure to, you know, thinking out of the box, doing something new, and you think like maybe you want to develop something new, create a new technology, depending on what your motivation is and obviously what different labs are doing and where those two have a point of confluence, you can explore research. But yeah, I think this decision really is, do you want to get your master's and go to industry and say, I have a master's, give me a job because I have a master's, or do you want to do something new in research and, you know, use that as a stepping stone to doing something new in life? So it just depends.
Yeah, also I'm a master's student in structural engineering, and there's also that thesis or coursework track. When I came into grad school, it's like, they kind of left that door open for us because it's like, oh, thesis students really only decide after their first year of coursework masters. But I found that I like, you know, look inside yourself and ask yourself, well, what you want to do. And I found I didn't have a research project in me. I didn't have a thesis. Like, I'm like, I don't feel super excited about this one particular thing that I want to write a research paper on. And so I'm like, I don't have that kind of power to get me started on a thesis or like even a PhD. So I'm like, I'll do coursework, like learning stuff in the class is something for me. And also the coursework masters has provided me time to sort of like, well, what if I just want a piece of paper that says I have a master's degree, what do I want to do with it? Because like I could go work for, like, you know, I could go work for a private company. I could go work for a consulting firm. I could go do Engineers Without Borders. And so it's like, where do I want to be? What classes am I excited about? Or what class was I'm like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. I want to get an internship in this. So definitely it is, that thing is your choice. Also take into consideration that, like, you know, thesis usually takes longer. And if you want to stay in school longer, that's plenty fine. It's just something you have to bake into consideration.
I'll also add, UCLA is a little different. They have an option for like failed theses that turn into projects to let you finish with a master's too. But I went there with full intention of doing research, and then the PI just kind of said, no, I'm not taking any master's students after I had already gotten there, and we had already kind of said I was going to do research. So things happen, and you change your master's around if you need to, but also some PIs might say, hey, just go do the coursework, knock it out, get it done, and we'll convert you if, you know, things are looking good. You'll be working in the lab the whole time, getting familiar with the team. And they're just like, just get the requirements done because I'm not paying for you for this year, right? But if you show that you're a hard worker, you're doing all these things, I'll convert you. And that's like, my lab just did that with somebody. He actually spent 2 years just because he wanted to take more classes and do more fun research, but he didn't do a thesis master's. He still did a comp exam one, but he'd been doing research the entire time. So it's just kind of up in the air based on all these individual situations. And it comes down to what you want and what happens, but also sometimes it is easier to just do the coursework if you have like a set plan for getting the PhD after.
So I just want to bring up a question that someone asked earlier. I think it can spark a lot of discussion among everyone. So if everyone can kind of just chime in their 2 cents on this one, and maybe that one is just industry or academic research. Any thoughts on the difference between the two and like which you prefer and anything of that sort? I think this will be like the last question we can answer live before the end of the session. If you have any other questions, feel free to still put on the Q&A, and we'll try to answer it to the best of our ability through the Q&A.
I guess I can speak a little bit to this. So in computer science, it really depends on like the applications of your research. So if you think that like the skills that you've acquired during your research can be generalized to like different kinds of problems, then it lends itself to being more accessible to you shifting to industry. But also basically it just has to do with like who's funding the research and what their goals are. So like if their goals are to make money off of it, and that's something that can be directly tied to your research, it makes more sense that industry would care about that more and be more likely to fund it than maybe other problems academia where you can kind of just answer any question that you would really can get funded for and can try and answer on your own. But yeah, I mean, it's not like super like what black and white, because like there are some like research ideas that industry also is interested in working in.
I can go next. So I plan to go to industry after my PhD. I definitely don't want to do a postdoc or any of that stuff. That'll take too long. So my research, well, as a bioengineer, I'm trying to mix biology and engineering, all this stuff, but I would definitely call my research like more on the research side. But I have talked to industry representatives like VPs of companies and stuff, and I always ask them like, well, I'm doing this PhD, it's very specific research. How am I gonna be hireable for you guys if whatever specific thing I'm doing, like that's not what your company is doing? And they told me, it's like, well, that's very common because the PhD is specific to begin with. And not a lot, when people graduate with their PhDs, they usually don't work on the same problem anyways, even if they were to stay in academia. Basically what they told me is like, we hire you because you have a brain. You're probably smarter than a lot of the other people in the company. Yeah, so me, it works out for me because I eventually want to be part of the R&D part of a company. But I have seen peers where, you know, they'll start a company during their graduate school, or they're more entrepreneurship minded, and depending on their business plan, you know, you have to decide whether to do like research or like industry research to accommodate for that. So just to reiterate from the past conversations, define your goal, choose a path, do your homework to, you know, choose a path, and then take the path to in order to achieve the goals that you have.
I think I can chime in on that. You know, like he mentioned, one thing is for sure your motivations really will define this decision in a big way. and there's no one answer that fits everyone. There's a subset of students who really are passionate and enjoy very fundamental research, which is incremental, you know, in very specialist particular theories or detail. And then there's a subset that kind of just go with the flow. They say, oh, my PI said he wants this, so I'll go with this, or, you know, this is where funding is available, so I'm going to jump on this. And then there's also another subset where people kind of want to do something where they have a clear vision for, you know, something that has a real life application. And unless they have a project which they're working on in which they can clearly see how it will benefit the end user in society or a person in real life, they can't find themselves motivated. I'm obviously the last one of those three, and I'm not saying those are the only three. There are more subsets as well, but ultimately it really depends on what motivates you, what you want to do. And look, if that has a confluence with what industry is funding and providing, then absolutely, you know, do it. But if there is no confluence, the worst thing you can do, or one thing I would say you should not do, is you're not interested in it, but you're going for it because industry is funding it. No, don't do that. You will regret it at some point later. But yeah, there will be this dilemma, and not just, I would say, with industry, but you know, a lot of projects where funding is available versus what it is that you want to do. You know, to put things in perspective, in my lab where I work, the projects I work on, we were not funded for the first 2-3 years by any big grants. And believe it or not, the 15-month point, we thought of shelving the device because the device was not working. We had no funding, and it's a question of should we proceed or not. And you know, the logical thing, a lot of people will be like, yeah, let's just shelve it. But I believed in it, and my PI fortunately supported me through it. And you know, fast forward 4 years down the line, here we are with, you know, picked up a few awards. We've started a company with it. So it really depends on what you really want to do versus where the funding is.
Okay, if no one else has any other experience that they would like to share, then I think we can end the sessions right here. A lot of people of the panelists have shared the contact information in the chat. If the rest of the panelists are comfortable sharing your information in the chat for the attendees to reach out to you if they have any further additional question, please do send it to the chat. But with regards to that, that should be the end of our sessions. Thank you everyone very much for attending, and especially thank you the panelists for sharing all your valuable experiences and giving your 2 cents in this.
Can I say one thing? And I think probably all of the panel is probably going to say or touch on this to some effect. But coming into grad school, the transition, especially it's from undergrad to graduate school, you think, oh yeah, I know graduate school is going to be hard. It's going to be harder than what I've experienced before. That's what makes it different. But I had no idea just how hard it was going to be. There are a lot of long nights, a lot of dark times, and I just want to say, everybody, it's like, that's to be expected. We've all been in that dark place. And if you need help, talk to your peers, talk to your friends, talk to your professors, talk to your TA, get a therapist, talk to your family. There are people that love and support you, and this is going to be a hard time, but you're going to move forward. Like looking back, like to like fall quarter or winter quarter, I'm like, I don't know how I even like lived through that, but right now it's my last quarter, and I'm like, I'm going to get through this one too, and I'm going to get my degree. So people love you. You're not an imposter. You're here for a reason. And reach out to your support systems. You cannot do this alone, and you are not expected to do this alone. If anyone wants to say anything else.
Yeah, just briefly. Graduate school does not challenge your intellect. It challenges you, yourself, and that is extremely challenging. That's all I have to say. But it will make you into a stronger, better person.
Yeah, I totally resonate with what Valentina and Ismail said. Yeah, like graduate school is challenging. So like you need to tell yourself that it's totally okay to fall. You just need to like stop a moment and like get yourself together and then stand up. I also had like a really tough transitioning from undergrad to graduate school because of the quarter system, and I was attending a much smaller private university, so it's like really different. And yeah, just be brave and also have support system. Also like have your own hobbies, like especially during quarantine, like I would recommend, for example, like San Diego is great for outdoor activities. Like recently I just got into surfing. I find it's amazing. So like if you feel like really down, like because you stay indoor for too long, like go outside and do something. The sunshine will make you feel much better.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We hope you have a good day. Thank you all the panelists for being here. We really appreciate it. Yeah, we've dropped some emails in the chat, and that concludes our event today. Have a good one, everyone.